Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and Quebec Premier Yves-François Blanchet have been exchanging blows throughout the week. Smith said that the Liberals have no mandate to bargain with Quebec separatists at the expense of Alberta, the West, and the rest of Canada. She warned that if they do, an election should be called immediately. I'm Isaac Lamoureux, your new host of the Alberta Roundup. If you were expecting Rachel Parker, you can catch her at The Rachel Parker Show. I hope that you don't find me replacing her on this show as too much of a detriment. You may know me from my previous work elsewhere with True North. I've appeared on this show a few times as a guest, and also I have the odd appearance on Off the Record and normally a bi-weekly appearance on the Daily Brief. I also write articles for True North, and chances are if you've ever read an article about Alberta, that I am the author. Let's get back into that Alberta-Quebec exchange. Blanchet said that when he saw Smith's post, he found it so funny that he shared it himself. He suggested that Smith thinks the Bloc is serving Quebec better than the Conservatives are serving Alberta.
But instead of being just not satisfied with the job made by the Conservatives sent by Alberta to Ottawa, compared to what the Bloc Québécois does for Quebecers, maybe all regions of Canada should just do the same. And if she's interested in knowing more about the way we did it, because obvious she seems to believe that Quebec is better served by the Bloc than she is by the Conservatives, I will be very glad to do it.
Smith responded once more. She said that she didn't need lessons from Quebec as the province's record speaks for itself. She added that Albertans object to the Bloc's plan to leverage the Liberals to advance its own separatist and socialist agenda, all the while blocking Alberta and even Quebec's natural resources. Smith said, quote, "The federal government must not permit the Bloc to hold the rest of the country hostage so that the Prime Minister can cling to power for a few more months before facing the judgment of Canadian voters." The back and forth follows NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's announcement that he would be ending his coalition agreement with the Liberals. A majority threshold in Canada consists of 170 out of 338 seats in Parliament. The Liberals currently have 154. The NDP have 24 seats, meaning those two parties together can pass any vote they want. However, the Bloc Québécois also have 32 seats, meaning that even if the NDP Liberal coalition comes to an end, the Bloc Québécois could take the NDP's place in propping up this Liberal government. An election is triggered if the government loses a confidence vote in the House of Commons. Confidence votes can occur on key issues, such as budget bills or specific bills calling for confidence. A judge sentenced the remaining Coutts protesters to over 6 years each on Monday. The two remaining members of the Coutts Four had spent over 900 days in remand awaiting trial. Two of the initial four members, Chris Lysak and Jerry Morin, accepted a plea deal on lesser charges in February. The conspiracy to commit murder charges were dropped and the two men were released. Lysak was sentenced to 3 years for possession of a restricted firearm in an unauthorized place, and Morin was sentenced to 3.5 years for conspiracy to traffic firearms. Both sentences amounted to time served awaiting trial for the two men. Olienick and Carbert both had conspiracy to commit murder charges dropped earlier this week before this recent ruling, but Crown prosecutors are appealing. Monday's ruling resulted in Chris Carbert being sentenced to 6.5 years for mischief and obstruction, and Anthony Olienick being sentenced to 6 years for the same charges and possessing an explosive weapon. However, after accounting for time served, the remaining sentences are brought down to about 2 years each. Both will also be subject to a lifetime firearms prohibition and have to submit their DNA to a registry. Opinions of the sentencing varied online, with some commentators, including Carbert's mother, doubting the soundness of the sentence. Gord McGill, a writer and trucker who commented on the Coutts trials in the past, said that the judge's ruling obliged the Crown and spent much of the time relitigating charges for which the two men were found not guilty. Carbert's mother agreed with McGill's take.
To me, it just shows how our justice system isn't very just. And I don't feel that the judge based his decisions on actual facts. I also feel that he based some of it on the charge that they were acquitted from.
Other Canadians noted their disbelief at Canada's lenient jailing procedures in non-politicized trials, as people are charged and released the next day, only to be charged again the following day, a cycle that's been seeming to repeat itself with this catch-and-release policy. Every day in this country, we have politicians and senior bureaucrats committing crimes that are way worse than mischief, but get away with it. Sad day for Canada, said Marty up north, a well-known Albertan commentator on X. The Alberta government is said to be releasing new guidelines on photo radar in December. CTV News obtained a copy of the guidelines which listed the following policy changes: banning automated traffic enforcement, photo radar, on provincial highways and numbered highways and roads that connect with provincial highways, restricting automated traffic enforcement to playground, school, and construction zones, and eliminating speeding enforcement by intersection safety devices at intersections. This feels like a promise that has been looming in Alberta for some time now. As I'm sure many of my fellow big city Albertans can attest to, I've been frustrated with photo radar for, well, most of my life, especially considering there are some data suggesting that photo radar does little to nothing to actually improve road safety, because obviously it makes drivers more nervous, but it also does make some drivers drive slower, and I guess those balance each other out. For example, a 2017 study by Jason Garapi titled "Picture This: Mobile Photo Radar in Its Efficacy on Traffic Safety" concluded that, quote, "There is no statistical evidence between the presence and absence of photo radar and the frequency of traffic collisions every month." Also, something that always irked me is that small towns in Alberta seem to have already outlawed photo radar because I guess their populace generally has more influence on city council than, say, the population of a big city like Edmonton or Calgary. Obviously, the same can't be said for Edmonton, but I do look forward to roads like the Anthony Henday, the Yellowhead, the White Mud, Calgary Trail, and the list goes on. They will no longer have photo radar. In Alberta, photo radar generated $171 million in 2022-23. The revenue from traffic fines are split between governments, so that means that 40% goes to the province and 60% to the municipality. While some councillors have expressed opposition because they believe that photo radar makes the roads safer, Alberta has previously called photo radar, quote, cash cow, and Transportation and Economic Corridors Minister Devin Dreeshen previously announced photo radar restrictions on ring roads near the end of 2023. Alberta has the highest usage of photo radar in Canada, and these changes will finally eliminate the cash cow that affects so many Albertans. Photo radar must only be used to improve traffic safety, and with these changes, municipalities will no longer be able to issue thousands of speeding tickets simply to generate revenue, said Dreeshen. At the time, he said that more changes were to come after they consulted municipalities, which they estimated would end December 1st, 2024. And surprise, surprise, these changes and recommendations are slotted to come in December. So Dreeshen and the Alberta government are following through on their word. All right, people, now for the much anticipated sports section. And surprisingly, we actually have two sports stories back to back. I didn't even really expect to have one on this first week, but yes, we have two. So the Edmonton Oilers announced their, quote, jersey partner on Monday, meaning this upcoming season, their jerseys will have advertisements. The initial post released by Edmonton on Monday was just a video showcasing their jersey partner, but it didn't really explicitly say what was happening, so it didn't get ratioed that hard. But the same cannot be said for a post that they issued a few minutes later with a press release explicitly describing the changes. And if you thought jersey advertisements were bad enough, it gets worse. While the home jerseys will feature a Play Alberta logo on them, the helmets will also have a GameSense advertisement on them during every single home game. I scrolled through every single comment on the second post, and it was more or less impossible to find a positive one. Most replies complained about the advertising, especially with them being related to gambling, and contained vulgar language like trash, disgusting, and gross. I'm really not sure what caused the shift for the Oilers. They were previously celebrated during the 2022-23 season when they were one of the few teams to say that they wouldn't have advertisements on their jerseys. This may be the change here, that PlayAlberta.ca generated $235 million in net sales last year, which was a $42 million increase from 2022-23. And this contributed to the $1.5 billion in total gaming revenue funneled into Alberta's General Revenue Fund. Even before gambling ads flooded arenas, appearing virtually on boards and on the ice during games and all across city signage, a January 2023 Ipsos poll revealed that nearly half of Canadians believed gambling ads were out of control. Nearly 48% of Canadians felt that the volume of gambling advertisements was excessive and should be reduced. Additionally, 63% supported limiting the amount or placement of ads, which have since essentially become unavoidable. While the Oilers had previously avoided ads, the greatest player right now and the greatest player of all time, Connor McDavid and Wayne Gretzky, appeared collaboratively in a BetMGM commercial promoting sports gambling. Look, as an avid hockey fan myself, many of my fondest memories growing up were watching sports with my family. I can only imagine the children now that are bombarded with these sport gambling ads. I'm curious, given the money these companies are making for the leagues, whether we'll ever be able to tone it down. Sticking with hockey, another hockey story in development surrounding Johnny Gaudreau came to light this week. For those who don't know, former Calgary Flames forward Johnny Gaudreau and his brother were both killed by an alleged drunk driver on August 28th. The two were in New Jersey, set to be groomsmen at their sister's wedding the very next day. They were riding their bikes when both of the brothers were struck by a Jeep driver who allegedly was trying to pass another vehicle, and they were both pronounced dead at the scene. At the brothers' memorial on Monday, Meredith Gaudreau, Johnny's wife, revealed that she is 9 weeks pregnant with her and her late husband's third child.
John and I had the best 6 months as a family of 4. These will forever be the best 6 months of my life. There's specifically 1 week that I will cherish forever and will be my favorite week of my life out of those 6 months. We're actually a family of 5. I'm in my 9th week of pregnancy with our 3rd baby. A total surprise, but again, John was beaming and so excited.
The post to X of this announcement has already garnered over 1 million views, and the comments are flooded with support. Good luck reading through them without teary eyes. Aside from the announcement of the child, there has been an outpour of support across the country. At a recent WWE event in Calgary, they gave the Gaudreau brothers a shout out as fans were seeing sporting jerseys throughout the arena.
You see that number 13 jersey around town. Today, Johnny and his brother were laid to rest on a day when this community continues to remember him. Jackie Redmond has more.
Tess, thank you. I'm outside the Saddle Dome where a very large display of love to honor the memory of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau continues to grow. As fans arrived here tonight, they walked by dozens of number 13 jerseys, love letters from fans, and even some of Johnny's favorite snacks. Johnny Hockey, as we lovingly refer to him in the hockey world, spent the better part of a decade electrifying hockey fans in this very arena. And he was a special type of player, the type of player that got people out of their seats and onto their feet the second the puck was on his stick. I mean, he was magical to watch.
Now we're going to get into the comment roundup portion of the show, which I know Rachel started, but as a fan of the show myself, I always loved watching, and I really like the connection it builds with fans. So I'm going to go through a few comments from last week when Rachel was hosting the show. Obviously, it wasn't me, but still, I read through all your comments, and I'll read some now. So the first comment featured is from Leona369, and it says, "Well, very cool. I'll be watching both shows. I hope it goes very well for you. You deserve it. We need more patriots like you. Alberta is my home. I was born and raised here. I was born in Calgary General Hospital. I lived in a small town for a little while, and now I live in Calgary again. I don't recognize my city. I don't recognize my province. We can't let this happen to our beautiful land. So thank you for speaking up about what is actually important for Calgary and Albertans. I really like Isaac as well, so now I just have to add another show to my list. Awesome." Thanks, Leona. Yeah, it really means a lot that you showed me out there, so really, really appreciate that. This one from Mike Cortez 931. He said, "Here's an idea. Let's take the money the city had aside for the Green Line and reallocate it to a new water supply for the city, considering we're still under a water ban due to a total incompetence at the city level. Might be a good idea to fire everyone first, then give it to a private company to complete." Look, Mike, you're right. Generally, private industry can do things more effective than the public sphere. And I don't know how long Calgary's been in this water crisis. It seems like it's been months now, but this is ridiculous. I can't believe it's still going on. And for all the residents of Calgary, I really hope that you guys get out of this pretty quick. Then the last comment here, and sort of on Calgary as well, this from Brian Wing 2326, he said, Gondek had better start focusing on Calgary's water supply rather than wasting so much money elsewhere. That pipe needs to be replaced, not patched up long enough for it just to break again. Nenshi ignored our infrastructure in favor of vanity projects, spending huge amounts of money on things that were unnecessary. Keep that in mind while he looks for your provincial vote. Brian, I decided to shout that out because I really like the mention of Nenshi. He's running for provincial politics as if Calgarians haven't forgotten the kind of mayor he was, and I remember his approval ratings were among the worst I've ever seen. So just going to do a quick outro here. Just wanted to thank everyone again for wishing Rachel good luck on her new show, The Rachel Parker Show. I'm sure she'll do amazing. And try not to be too critical of me. This is my first time, and Rachel had years of experience. I hope to one day be able to live up to her revered reputation. I didn't get much sleep last night, which generally happens when I have a stressful situation the next day. And then worse yet, I wake up to my roof leaking. Yes, my roof leaking in my house today. So that really helped things move along swiftly here. And I've been dealing with that all day, so you can imagine. If you don't recognize me from before, it might be because I'm not wearing a three-piece suit and I shave my mustache. But if you remember someone coming on talk shows before with a mustache and wearing a suit, yes, that was me. I know I look much different now, so my mom will be happy. She really hated that mustache.